After studying this module, you will be able to know the powers, duties, and liabilities of directors towards the company, understand the legal requirements relating to the meeting of board of directors, learn the concept of passing of resolution by circulation.
The powers of a director of a company are coextensive with the powers of the company. As per Section 179 of the Companies Act 1956, the Board of Directors of a company shall be entitled to exercise all such powers and to do all such acts and things as the company is authorized to exercise and do. There are, however, two limitations upon the powers of the board. The board cannot exercise those powers which the Act or Memorandum of Association or Articles of Association require to be exercised by the shareholders in a general meeting. In the exercise of their powers, the directors are subject to the provisions of the Act, Memorandum and Articles and other regulations not inconsistent therewith made by the company in the general meeting. Powers of the company are distributed between the board of directors and the shareholders in a general meeting. Powers vested in the board of directors can be exercised by it alone. The general meeting cannot interfere with the decision of the directors unless they are acting contrary to the provisions of the Act or the Articles. However, the inherent residuary and ultimate powers of a company lie with the general meeting of the shareholders and therefore the general meeting, that is, the shareholders can act even in a matter delegated to the board in the three exceptional cases, which are: number 1, where the director's actions are found to be mala fide; number 2, where the actions of the directors are mala fide and against the interest of the company, for example, clash of directors' personal interest with the duties towards the company; number 2, where the board becomes incompetent to act, where the board of directors has for some valid reason become incompetent to act, for example, all the directors are interested in a particular transaction; and 3, and lastly, deadlock in the board, where the directors are unable to act because of a deadlock in the meeting of the board of directors. They are equally divided and therefore cannot come to a decision.
Let us now discuss the statutory powers of the directors. As per Section 179, subsection 3, the board of directors of a company shall exercise the following powers on behalf of the company by means of resolutions passed at meetings of the board, namely, to make calls on shareholders in respect of money unpaid on their shares, to authorize buyback of securities under Section 68, to issue securities including debentures whether in or outside India, to borrow money, to invest the funds of the company, to grant loans or give guarantee or provide security in respect of loans, to approve financial statement and the board's report, to diversify the business of the company, to approve amalgamation, merger, or reconstruction, to take over a company or acquire a controlling or substantial stake in another company, any other matter which may be prescribed, provided that the board may, by a resolution passed at a meeting, delegate to any committee of directors, the managing director, the manager, or any other principal officer of the company, or, in the case of a branch office of the company, the principal officer of the branch office, the powers specified in clauses D to F on such conditions as it may specify. As per Section 180, subsection 1, the Board of Directors of a company shall exercise the following powers only with the consent of the company by a special resolution, namely, first, to sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of the whole or substantially the whole of the undertaking of the company, or where the company owns more than one undertaking of the whole or substantially the whole of any such undertakings. Undertaking shall mean an undertaking in which the investment of the company exceeds 20%. Second, to invest otherwise in trust securities the amount of compensation received by it as a result of any merger or amalgamation. Third, to borrow money where the money to be borrowed, together with the money already borrowed by the company, will exceed aggregate of its paid up share capital and free reserves, apart from temporary loans obtained from the company's bankers in the ordinary course of business. Fourth, to remit or give time for the repayment of any debt due from a director. As per Section 181, the Board of Directors of a company may contribute to bona fide, charitable, and other funds provided that, prior permission of the company in general meeting, shall be required for such contribution in case any amount the aggregate of which in any financial year exceeds 5% of its average net profits for the 3 immediately preceding financial years. In addition to the powers specified under subsection 3 of Section 179 of the Act, the following powers shall also be exercised by the Board of Directors only by means of resolutions passed at meetings of the Board. First, to make political contributions. Second, to appoint or remove key managerial personnel (KMP). Third, to take note of appointment or appointments or removals of one level below the key management personnel. Fourth, to appoint internal auditors and secretarial auditor. Fifth, to take note of the disclosure of directors' interest and shareholding. Sixth, to buy, sell investments held by the company other than trade investments constituting 5% or more of the paid up share capital and free reserves of the investee company. Seventh, to invite or accept or renew public deposits and related matters. Eighth, to review or change the terms and conditions of public deposit. Ninth, to approve quarterly, half-yearly, and annual financial statements or financial results as the case may be. Let us now move on to discuss the duties and responsibilities of directors. The duties and responsibilities of directors stipulated by the Indian Companies Act of 2013 can broadly be classified into two categories. First, the duties and liabilities which encourage and promote the sincerest investment of the best efforts of directors in the efficient and prudent corporate management in providing elegant and swift resolutions of various business related issues. Second, fiduciary duties which ensure and secure that the directors of companies always keep the interests of the company and its stakeholders ahead and above their own personal interests. The duties and liabilities that have been imposed on the directors of companies by the Indian Companies Act of 2013 under Section 166 are: first, a director of a company shall act in accordance with the Articles of Association (AOA) of the company. Second, a director of the company shall act in good faith in order to promote the objects of the company for the benefits of the company as a whole and in the best interests of the stakeholders of the company. Third, a director of a company shall exercise his duties with due and reasonable care, skill, and diligence, and shall exercise independent judgment. Fourth, a director of a company shall not involve in a situation in which he may have a direct or indirect interest that conflicts or possibly may conflict with the interest of the company. Fifth, a director of a company shall not achieve or attempt to achieve any undue gain or advantage either to himself or to his relatives, partners, or associates, and if such director is found guilty of making any undue gain, he shall be liable to pay an amount equal to that gain to the company. Sixth, a director of a company shall not assign his office, and any assignment so made shall be void. Seventh, if a director of the company contravenes the provisions of this section, such a director shall be punishable with a fine which shall not be less than 1 lakh rupees, but which may extend to 5 lakh rupees. Moving on, let's now discuss the liabilities of the directors of a company. These can be grouped under three heads. First, liability to outsiders. Second, liability to company. Third, criminal liability. Let us discuss these in detail. Liability to outsiders. Directors are not personally liable to the outsiders for any acts done by them on behalf of the company. They act as agents of the company and, therefore, they will be liable only under those circumstances under which ordinarily an agent can be held liable. The directors would be personally liable to third parties in these circumstances. First, directors shall be held liable for all the ultra-vires transactions amounting to a breach of an implied warranty of authority held out by the directors. Second, directors shall also be liable on all those contracts which they enter in their own name. They shall also be personally liable on contracts entered into on behalf of the company when they have expressly or by implication personally taken the responsibility for the same. Third, directors shall personally be liable to the outsiders if they are found guilty of fraud or other torts. Outsiders who have subscribed for shares on the basis of false statement can make the directors liable either under Section 62 by an action for damage or by an action for deceit under general law. Liability to the company. The liability of directors towards the company may be put in the following four categories. First, liability for ultra vires acts. Second, liability for negligence. Third, liability for breach of trust. Fourth, liability for misfeasance. Liability for ultra vires acts. The directors are responsible to the company for any loss that it may suffer on account of ultra vires acts. Example, application of funds of company for objects not sanctioned by the company's memorandum or payment of dividend out of capital. The acts may not have been committed with any fraudulent intention on their part. Liability for negligence. Directors shall be liable to the company for negligence when they do not use so much skill and care in the management of the affairs of the company as an ordinary man would reasonably use in his own case, or which may be expected from a person of such experience and knowledge. Directors are, however, not liable for mere errors of judgment when they have acted within their powers in the bona fide exercise of their discretion or negligence of the subordinates relied upon by them, in the absence of any ground for suspicion. A director is not required to give continuous attention to the affairs of the company. He is justified in trusting officials of the company to carry out honestly any duty which, in the absence of grounds for suspicion, may properly be left to him. Liability for breach of trust. Directors shall be held liable for the misapplication of the funds of the company or for misappropriation of assets or for making a secret profit out of their dealings on behalf of the company. He will also be liable for breach of trust if he fails to act honestly and in the interests of the company as a whole. He will be liable to make good any loss sustained by the company as a result of any wrongful act committed or authorized by him or which he has joined in sanctioning at a board's meeting. Liability for misfeasance. Misfeasance implies misconduct on the part of a director in the conduct of company's affairs which causes loss to the company. In order to take action against a director on the ground of misfeasance, two conditions must be fulfilled, that is, first, there must be misconduct or negligence on the part of a director, and second, such misconduct or negligence must be willful. Mere failure on the part of the director to take certain steps for the benefit of the company, example, recovery of a debt, will not amount to misfeasance. Criminal liability of the directors. When the directors fail to fulfill the statutory obligations imposed upon them by law, they may be held criminally liable. There are various provisions in the Companies Act under which directors shall be criminally liable. The directors can also be held criminally liable for fraud, misapplication, and embezzlement of the company's funds under the provisions of the Indian Penal Code. Liability for the acts of co-directors. A director is not liable for the misconduct or wrongful acts committed by his co-directors unless he has expressly or impliedly authorized the same. A director would be liable for loss or damage to the company resulting from carrying out such decisions if he has taken an active part in giving effect to the decisions of the board. It will be immaterial whether he attended such meetings of the board or not. In case of breach of trust, directors are jointly and severally liable. Let us now discuss the provisions regarding the meeting of Board of Directors. Most of the powers of the directors are exercised in the meetings of the Board of Directors. The meetings are where the board discusses the affairs of the company and also exercises its authority. Conduct of meetings in a proper manner is important for the proper functioning of the company. The provisions of the Companies Act regarding conduct of boards meetings as contained under section 173. Let's discuss these.
Frequency of board meetings. This is covered under section 173, subsection 1 of the Act. Every company shall hold the first meeting of the Board of Directors within 30 days of the date of its incorporation and thereafter hold a minimum of 4 meetings of its Board of Directors every calendar year in such a manner that not more than 120 days shall intervene between 2 consecutive meetings of the board, provided that the central government may by notification direct that the provision of this subsection shall not apply in relation to any class or description of companies or shall apply subject to such exceptions, modifications or conditions as may be specified in the notification. Participation of directors in the board meeting. This is covered under section 173 subsection 2 of the Companies Act. The participation of directors in a meeting of the board may be either in person or through video conferencing or other audio visual means as may be prescribed, which are capable of recording and recognizing the participation of the directors and of recordings and storing the proceedings of meetings along with date and time, provided that the central government may by notification specify such matters which shall not be dealt with in a meeting through video conferencing or other audio visual means. Notice of board meetings. This is covered under section 173 subsection 3 of the Act. A meeting of the board shall be called by giving not less than 7 days notice in writing to every director at his address registered with the company, and such notice shall be sent by hand delivery or by post or by electronic means, provided that a meeting of the board may be called at shorter notice to transact urgent business, subject to the condition that at least one independent director, if any, shall be present at the meeting, provided further that in case of absence of independent directors from such a meeting of the board, decisions taken at such a meeting shall be circulated to all the directors and shall be final only on ratification thereof by at least one independent director, if any, as per section 173 subsection 4 of the Act. Every officer of the company whose duty is to give notice under this section and who fails to do so shall be liable to a penalty of 25,000 rupees. Quorum for board's meetings. This is covered under section 174 of the Act. Quorum means the minimum number of directors who are authorized to act and transact business as a board in a meeting. The quorum for a board meeting is 1/3 of the total number of directors in the office or 2 directors, whichever is higher. The participation of the directors by video conferencing or by other audio visual means shall also be counted for the purpose of quorum under this section, where at any time the number of interested directors exceeds or is equal to 2/3 of the total strength of the board of directors, the number of directors who are not interested directors and present at the meeting being not less than 2 shall be the quorum during such time. Directors are not allowed to send their proxies to attend and vote for them in the meetings. Meeting of the board of directors in the absence of quorum, unless otherwise provided in the articles, shall be adjourned until the same day in the next week at the same time and same place. In case that day is a public holiday, it shall be held on the next succeeding day, which is not a public holiday. Minutes of the meeting. The minutes of each meeting shall contain a fair and correct summary of the proceedings. Thereat, in the case of a meeting of the board of directors or of a committee of the board, the minutes shall also contain a. the names of the directors present at the meeting, b. In the case of each resolution passed at the meeting, the names of the directors, if any, dissenting from or not concurring with the resolution.
Resolution by circulation. Section 175. No resolution shall be deemed to have been duly passed by the board or by a committee thereof by circulation unless the resolution has been circulated in draft together with the necessary papers, if any, to all the directors or members of the committee, as the case may be, at their addresses registered with the company in India by hand delivery or by post or by courier or through such electronic means as may be prescribed and has been approved by a majority of the directors or members who are entitled to vote on the resolution, provided that were not less than one-third of the total number of directors of the company for the time being require that any resolution under circulation must be decided at a meeting, the chairperson shall put the resolution to be decided at a meeting of the board. A resolution shall be noted at a subsequent meeting of the board or the committee thereof, as the case may be, and made part of the minutes of such meeting. The powers of directors of a company are co-extensive with the powers of the company. The board of directors of a company shall be entitled to exercise all such powers and to do all such acts and things as the company is authorized to exercise and do. A director of a company shall exercise his duties with due and reasonable care, skill and diligence, and shall exercise independent judgment. The directors owe a duty of loyalty and care in performing their responsibilities on behalf of the company. Most of the powers of the directors are exercised in the meetings of the board of directors. The meetings are where the board discusses the affairs of the company and also exercises its authority. They are very important for the smooth functioning of the company.
Let us now summarize what we have learnt in this module. The powers of directors of a company are co-extensive with the powers of the company. The board of directors of a company shall be entitled to exercise all such powers and to do all such acts and things as the company is authorized to exercise and do. A director of a company shall exercise his duties with due and reasonable care, skill and diligence, and shall exercise independent judgment. The directors owe a duty of loyalty and care in performing their responsibilities on behalf of the company. Most of the powers of the directors are exercised in the meetings of the board of directors. The meetings are where the board discusses the affairs of the company and also exercises its authority. They are very important for the smooth functioning of the company.